Hello, everyone. Come on in. You might want to be sure to mute yourselves, okay? So we don't hear your background noise. And
Okay.
we're gonna wait just a moment or so to make sure everybody gets in here.
All right. I'm gonna go get some water. You can hear me and everything.
Yes, but Luz, you're a guest. You're not on this panel. It's one of our team members is on here. So, okay, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Adrian Leeds with the Adrian Leeds Group. And with us today is Joey Byrne, who's head of Europe Pacaso. And we're going to be talking today about fractional ownership. So, what is fractional ownership? I don't want to confuse it with timeshare. The primary difference between fractional ownership and timeshare is that with fractional ownership, you actually own a part of the property, not just the time.
Wow. And you know, by God, what do they call them? They call them a different name for them.
Hey, please mute yourselves, okay, everybody? Anybody who's got their mic on so that we can get started? So basically, fractional ownership combines the best elements of direct ownership and timeshare. And it usually involves many shares in some sort of a large complex or a property. But your ownership is of the property, not just of the time. And it can be only a few individuals. It can be as few as two people. It can be as many as 50. So there's lots of different ways to cut this. So how does it work? You've got two or more owners with a common objective. Usually that common objective is one property. And it is ownership of an asset, and that ownership can either be direct or indirect. Our organization, Adrian Leeds Group, uses a nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, which is like a homeowner association in effect. It's a US corporation. It can also be done through the form of an SCI, which is a French property company. It's not what we recommend in terms of structure, but it's entirely possible. And an SCI can work really well when it's only two or four members, but when you have a lot of members, it gets a lot more complicated. Now, with this, you have to have an agreement on the division of usage. This is very important. How the owners are going to actually use the property is probably one of the biggest arguments they might have among themselves. So when you sign into a property, if you know what that division of usage is from the get-go, you're in much better shape. In fact, when we do fractional ownership for, say, two people, two friends, or two relatives, we always recommend that they actually put in writing their division of usage so that there's never any argument in the future. There's also a division of costs. So the costs of running the property are shared among the owners, and that makes it very inexpensive.
Adrian, I'll jump in there quickly.
Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. You'll hear more from me later. Adrian and I are going to go through these slides together, and there's some differences. There's a lot of similarities, but there's a couple nuances between our two structures and our models. The way Pacaso does it is we set up a French SCI, just like Adrian's group. And then on top of that, we have a US LLC. Most of our owners are based in the US, so the process is very simple. You'd just be buying 12.5% increments in the US LLC that owns the French SCI that owns the real estate. One benefit for that is our owners not being subject to French capital gains tax. Everything's done in the US. And we'll go into more of that a little bit later.
So Joey, on that note, it's really interesting because for many years our properties were set up exactly that way with an SCI, and then the SCI was basically owned by two LLCs or two US corporations. And then one of my notaires actually said, "You're complicating this and you don't need to do that." And so we now own, the properties are owned directly by the US corporations. But they function in the same way in that when the shares are sold, bought or sold, the transfer happens on the US side, not on the French side. Therefore, there's no notarial taxes and fees paid. It happens very simply and very inexpensively. So in effect, it's the same system. It's just that we were advised, and this was fairly recently actually, that we didn't have to complicate it with the French SCI.
Yeah, I think that's also a great structure. One of the reasons we went that route was because Pacaso is a very big business in the US, and we have a lot of owners that are now buying their second Pacaso share, third Pacaso share, and so we wanted to keep that process as similar as possible as well.
Right, so you're just continuing on the same mode without making that change. I understand completely. But either way, it works similarly,
Yep,
you know, and
absolutely.
it makes it very simple, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I made a list of pros and cons, and I want to talk about the cons first. So basically, the downside to fractional ownership is that you do have a limited amount of control because you have to share this with other owners. There's a relative inflexibility based on the usage calendar, and we're going to talk about usage calendar a little bit further down. There are no real tax benefits to this. There's no rental income because mostly owners do not want their shares rented out to non-owners. Although you can certainly let your friends and relatives use your share, that's no problem. There's no financing, you can't get a mortgage on this, and there are some management fees. But the pros greatly outweigh the cons because basically you have a low cash outlay. You're going to buy a really fabulous property for a whole lot less than if you owned it all yourself. You have a high efficiency of use. So let's say you wanted to own a property in Paris, but you only can come a few weeks a year. Well, you're paying for that property all the other weeks you're not using it. So this is a very high efficiency of use. Clearly, you're getting a lot more property for your money because for the price of a share, you aren't going to get anywhere near as nice a property. No question about that. You have no mortgage to worry about, so you don't owe anybody anything. You don't have any rental issues or tenant issues or anything like that. It's clean. Your costs are shared, so your costs are greatly reduced. You do have true ownership, and what that means is that you own an asset that is resellable. And I will tell you right now that I have never sold a share for less than an owner paid for it. They have always made a profit, so it's always been a good investment. We see that time and time again. Your selling cost is actually your selling cost is actually really low because normally the buyer pays the fees to transfer the share. And to transfer the share is literally just an attorney's hour or 2 hours away. The attorney we work with charges about $1,000 to make that transfer, and the buyer pays it, not the seller. So you can do a very quick and easy sale of the share. It's literally could take 24 hours to do that. It's not like going through 3 months of a French property transfer, that's for sure. Now, the property itself can be sold in its entirety with a unanimous vote of the entire ownership. I have never seen that happen. I doubt it ever would happen, but it'd have to be a pretty bad piece of property for all the owners to want to sell it in its entirety. And that, of course, is never going to happen as far as we're concerned. We're never going to do a bad piece of property. The ownership is US based. That makes it easy. And with Pacaso, which Joey, I can chime in here, they offer a shared usage among all or most of their properties. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Joey?
Yeah, so global swaps is a feature we introduced just about 6 months ago. And what that means is if you own an eighth of one of our homes in Paris, you can actually trade, all done on the owner's app in a matter of seconds, a week with an owner in London or in Aspen or in Cabo or in Miami. We're in 40 markets across 4 different countries so far. And it's a very seamless process. You have the same experience as a Pacaso owner globally. And so it's a really amazing way to kind of get added value for something that's already inherently comes with so much value add. So basically, owning an eighth in Paris allows you to do basically a few free vacations all around the rest of the world. And we're continuing to add inventory across existing markets, across new countries, especially across Europe. So really just getting started on the global swap feature, but it's been really welcomed by all of our owners. And a good example is we have an owner who owns in Aspen, spending a week in Paris right now. And we have an owner that's based in Paris, spending a week in London right now. And that's all done on the app, very simple to use.
Well, I know that you've got some slides a little further on that talks at even greater depth about this, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is my idea of a perfect fractional property. I have a very high standard on the kinds of properties that we will develop or that we will promote for sale. And that's the reason that we ended up partnering with Pacaso, because the quality of their properties meets my standard. We believe that a property has to be highly desirable. I call it sexy, well located, well designed, well decorated, well appointed, a kind of a jewel that's really unlike any other of its category. So it has to be particularly special, and that puts these properties way ahead of just about anything else you're going to find on an open market. I believe that a usage calendar should be really attractive to a very wide variety of owners. There are other developers here that do calendars that make no sense to me whatsoever, because they really don't allow for a certain amount of flexibility or for the owners. And I think that our calendars make a lot of sense. We're going to talk about that a little bit further down too. The legal structure is insanely important. It needs to be correct. You need to have good supporting documents. You want to avoid any conflicts among the owners. This is the number one issue with fractionals. In fact, the lawyers tell us that the fractionals that have the most conflicts are the ones with the least number of owners. So when you have two owners, two friends, two relatives together, they have a lot of proprietary interest in that property. And whereas when you have 8 or 13 owners, they're not so proprietary, and they don't have the same, need to control things. So the legal structure and everyone signing into those documents is extremely important. Quality management must be in place. I don't even want to promote properties that don't have professional management. A lot of properties do believe in managing it themselves, and that works when the owners are like-minded and they really understand one another and it's been running smoothly for a while. But if not, I believe that quality management must be in place and owners should be like-minded. When we have sold our shares in the past, we actually really interview the potential owners, and I have actually denied some people from buying in because I didn't think that they would make a good owner. It's just really important that everybody get along, even though you may never meet these people. You'll come and go in the property. You'll come for your few weeks and you'll leave, and you may never actually meet these other people. But you still need to all agree to the bylaws and to the way the property is run. And so as long as you're doing that, you can pretty much count on a property working very, very, very well. Ours certainly have. We have had really no conflict among owners in all the years we've been doing this.
Yeah, Adrian, I think I'll add one comment there. We run a very similar process. We run KYC on all of our owners. It's a fully anonymous ownership group. I'll get into sort of our property acquisition criteria later with some of our live opportunities, but that's one of the biggest steps of our process as well. We only buy the best. Our saying is buying the best home in the best micro location at the best price. And that's what starts the journey, and that's what starts the success of each one of these homes. So we're, just like Adrian's group, we're very patient and selective on the type of homes that we buy.
Okay, now there are different types of calendars, and there's a rotating calendar, a fixed calendar. You can split so that the seasons actually operate a little bit differently, and then there are hybrids. The calendar that we developed and have been using since 2008, as a matter of fact, with 13 owners, is that each owner has 2 weeks of usage, and then 6 months later, 2 weeks of usage, and the calendar rotates by 10 weeks each year, so that every year they have 2 different seasons. And over the period of 13 years, they have completely fully rotated in the calendar in the year. The owners can swap their weeks at any time. So if for some reason they can't use their weeks, they can swap with other owners. They know 13 years in advance exactly when those periods are. And when you have 2 owners that each want 4 weeks together rather than just 2, as long as their shares are next to one another, all they have to do is trade off their 2 weeks to make that happen. So it's really flexible. It's worked very, very well. It's been proven for all these years to be effective. And but it is designed with 13 owners that each have 4 weeks. So now, Joey, yours is different because you've got 8 shares, correct?
Yep, we do 8 shares per home. Owners can own as little as 1/8 up to 1/2. Typically, we have 6 owners per home, meaning 2 owners elect to buy a quarter share to be able to spend more time in the home and get more scheduling power. But basically, our homes are all fueled with a proprietary software that we developed called Smart Stay. And what that is, it's all done on the owner's app to make it very, very simple. For us, you can book 2 years in advance. We have things like special dates. So there's 8 owners, there's 8 special dates. With each 1/8 share, you can hold 1 special date at a time. We have things like peak seasons, and then we have features internally embedded, which allow more flexibility and more usage. So we have things like swaps that I mentioned. That's not just globally for other homes around the world. That's also amongst the ownership group, again, all done anonymously within the home. So if you've got Christmas this year and someone has Easter and there may be a trade on the table, you can do that all on the app. We also have things called short notice days, which means whether you've used 0 of your allotted days of the year or all of them, and the home's open anytime in the next 30 days, you can actually book that time for free. We don't charge you for it. We don't say next year you get X amount of days less. So it's all really there for the benefit of our owners to allow them to use their home as much as possible.
So what do you call a special date?
Depends on the date. There's no special
Like
name for it.
Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or special
Yep.
holidays and things of that nature?
Yeah, it's mostly US special
all right.
dates. And then we do lean into sort of the local market as well. But we spend a lot of time refining the schedule to make, listening to owner feedback. But we've got all very, very happy owners across our UK and European portfolio. About 60% of our business right now is referrals. So people wanting their friends to buy in existing homes or future homes. And scheduling is obviously a big component of that.
Okay, that's cool. And I'm sorry for the rotating. I had my finger on the mouse and it was doing all sorts of crazy things. So I think we're back where we were. Okay, with share pricing, shares are priced based on the costs that are associated with the development of the project and combined with what the current share market values are. And you really cannot compare a share price with the price of a property on the market that's sold in its entirety. You cannot take the price of the share, multiply it by the number of shares, and consider that the value of the property on the open market. This is apples and oranges completely. Basically, you can only compare the price of the shares with other properties on the other shares on the market in other properties. And even then, it's really difficult to compare because, I've seen the quality of the Pacaso properties, and there is a reason that they are expensive. They're fabulous properties in very expensive locations that have been done to the nines with beautiful materials and, high-level designers and everything. So there is a reason that those properties are expensive. There's no question about it. And when you look at other properties on the market that maybe we didn't do, maybe other people have developed, they might not have put as much into them. So maybe their share prices are less, but you get what you pay for in the end. Now, the operating expenses are all the basic things that that cost anything, any property to maintain and operate. We're talking about the taxes, which is taxe d'habitation and taxe foncière annual, all the utilities, the homeowner association charges for the building, the insurance, your housekeeping, combined with your concierge and whatever maintenance is required. There is management and accounting, and there is tax filing, as well as a reserve fund that is held for future repairs on the property. Do you have that as well, Joey? Do you have a reserve fund?
Yeah, all of our owners, when they buy their share, they contribute 3 months of operating expenses towards the
Mm.
reserve. And then even a portion of the ongoing monthly operating expense is a further contribution. I will say it, and you'll see in the coming slides, it all goes back to the type of homes we buy. So we only buy homes from developers, things that we're able to obtain, structural guarantees and manufacturer warranties, and we buy bespoke furniture that's very high quality. And so the reason for that is that, 1 year into the home operations or 2 years into the home operations, we don't need to do a renovation. We don't need to swap out furniture. If something's going on with the fridge, the Gaggenau fridge or the Miele fridge, it's all covered. And we obsess over kind of operations internally, and making sure that we deliver very efficient, owner expenses, et cetera.
Now, we also ask for a security deposit. Do you do that as well?
No, we basically run all of that kind of credit and KYC check ahead of time. But our owners, it's very different to renting. Airbnb's for renters, Pacaso's for owners. And when you stay at something that you own, you treat it very differently. Our homes are all governed by operating agreements that all the owners sign, which I know we'll get into in a later slide. So there's provisions in there and protections in place for the entire ownership group in case something breaks during one owner's stay.
Right.
And
Well, we do have a security deposit, but we have had to use it before, okay? Because stuff happens. But when a share has been sold, then the buyer basically refunds the original owner for whatever is held on their account, like the reserve fund, like the security deposit. They get reimbursed because it's still basically their money. Okay, so with the homeowner association, and I know we have this, but Joey's going to explain they don't have a homeowner association situation. Our shareholders agree to bylaws upon the purchase of the shares, and the co-owners form an ownership body that is self-governed with assistance by the management coordinator, and the meetings are held annually or more often as they needed, and they can be on Zoom or in person. And so they have a lot of freedom as far as that's concerned. The officers, initially they're appointed, but then they're later elected. And the bylaws can be changed by voting. So they basically end up running the property themselves, with the exception of the assistance by the management coordinator. But you
Yes,
have a different situation, right?
exactly. We play that role. Pacaso kind of plays that inherent kind of overseer of the HOA, but it really boils down to the fact that our ownership group is anonymous, right? So everyone signs the operating agreement. When Pacaso sells all the shares in the home, we retain no ownership, but we do stay on as the non-member manager, effectively like the admin of the LLC.
Right.
So we also do all the property management. There's a home manager. I saw a question pop up in the chat about making sure that the home is always well run. We have someone that's just dedicated to making sure that that home is always running efficiently, that the home's in good shape. That person will also attend the annual building syndic meeting, something that most owners of our group don't want to have to worry about or deal with, or, wake up on an 8-hour time difference to zoom in or fly over. Pacaso is really just, once you buy, we obviously remove all the friction on the purchase process, but even the ongoing experience, is as simple as possible.
So it's actually really different than what we have offered with our shares, because our owners do really, they do get to know one another because they have these meetings and they become sort of like this little family, so to speak. But your owners prefer to just kind of stay aloof.
If they like to stay anonymous, I think they, effectively what does happen is you know, everyone loves talking about real estate, everyone loves talking about Parisian real estate, and everyone loves talking about Picasso. And so the world is very small, as we know. And so people end up knowing each other through one degree of separation, or as I said, we have a very high referral rate. So there are situations where people may refer someone to a neighboring home or the same home, but for the most part, the way we have kind of approached it is just from an anonymous approach, and that's really what people want in our ownership group.
Okay. Okay, so to resell the share, because that's a big question that we get. People want to know that they have an out, but and it's interesting because I find that they tend to keep their shares about 5 years or so. Things happen in their lives that that change, and so they might want to resell their share. A lot of our owners right now are reselling in order to buy their own property because they want full ownership. They want to spend more time. This was a stepping stone. It was a way for them to kind of get a taste of what it's like to live there. But reselling the shares is very, very easy. First, you just set your price. You are obligated to make an offer to the other shareholders first. That's at least for our properties, that's true. You can certainly sell it to friends and associates, to anybody you know. There's no problem with that. We do offer a marketing capability. And as I said, I think we've sold more shares on the French market than any other single developer that I know of, because we have a very high success rate with selling shares. There are obviously there are other sales outlets, no problem. The legal costs for the sale of shares is basically paid by the buyer, so the seller has no obligation. And it can be very quick and easy. And we have never sold a share at a loss for an owner, never.
Yeah, I think, Adrian, our process looks very similar, with a couple differences. I think, one thing to note too, all of our Paris properties have wait lists. So, we're constantly nurturing folks that maybe didn't get to move quick enough into that particular home, which I think is really important. But our first step is the same, setting the price together, which we've talked about before. Our ownership group gets a 10-day right of first refusal exclusive window before it goes on the open market. We then, we have a big platform where we have tons and tons of visitors every single day, where that would be the next step, where we put the home on the Pacaso website, where we'll invest a lot of marketing, efforts, time, and money behind it to push that share, because obviously that's a big part of our business, is the secondary market. And then we're very lucky to work with groups like Adrian. You may have seen some of our shares previously on some of her newsletters. Basically, the point is we work very hard to make sure that we can resell a share quickly and very profitably. Again, because it's all happening as a membership interest assignment in the US via an LLC, there's really not any legal costs. We have a big internal legal team that can hold your hand every step of the way. If you'd like to use some type of outside counsel, of course, you're more than welcome to do that. But I would definitely double click on that last bullet point, that it's a very, very easy and quick sale, especially versus the typical process of selling an entire home in France, which could take a year with a ton of time and effort. Not to mention all the notary timing, language.
Oh yeah, everything it takes, exactly.
So
Everything it takes to market and then to go through the paperwork process and the administrative process.
absolutely.
Right. Okay. So here's a property that we have right now. We have a share for sale in La Belle Terrasse. It's in Villefranche-sur-Mer. Villefranche-sur-Mer is a beautiful Romanesque village that is just a 15-minute ride away from Nice. It's actually the deepest port on the Riviera, believe it or not, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous town. This is a 1-bedroom, and it's kind of like a duplex because it's on a couple of different levels, but the levels are not very high, so you're going up only a few stairs. It's almost 40 square meters. It does have a bathroom with a shower and a separate toilet. It has a bedroom with twin beds that come together and make a queen. It has a sofa bed in the living room. It sleeps up to 4. Its big feature is a 10 square meter balcony that facing east with views of Cap Ferrat. And one of the most amazing things about this is anybody who knows Villefranche knows that every doorway is on a different level, and you are up and down stairs throughout the entire village. But we managed to find a property that is a 5-minute level walk to either the train station or the parking lot, which makes this really ideal. There are some steps once you get to the door, but after that, that is amazing level walk. The share that's available is share H. It's 99,700 euros. And let's see, I can go to the next slide, which shows the view from the balcony. The owners of this property spend most of their time hanging out on that gorgeous balcony. It has an awning so that it's shaded. It has a big table. It has a mirror behind it so you can always see the sea no matter when. And the owners really love this. That is the website where you can find more information about this property. And if you're interested in it, it's really easy. You can email us at info@adrianleeds.com and just tell us you want to have more information about La Belle Terrasse. Now, another one of our properties, this one is in Nice, and I am sorry to tell you that the share just sold. I mean, we prepared this presentation and then the share literally sold just yesterday. It's called Le Palais du Soleil. It's in the heart of Nice in the Carré d'Or on Rue Massenet. It has 2 balconies. One has a sea view. The other overlooks the pedestrian street. It's a block from the sea. It's 2 bedrooms with 2 bathrooms. One bathroom has a tub. The other has a shower. It has a separate toilet. It has a sofa bed. So it sleeps 6. It's on the 2nd floor with a lift. It does have a cellar. And the share that we just sold was also share H for 129,700. And let's see, I have one other slide photo of it, and that's what the interior looks like. And that is the website, the URL link to view it. This property is, we took down every wall in that apartment to create this, and because of the glass walls and the mirrors and everything, it feels very, very spacious. What I'm not showing here, unfortunately, the gorgeous views, the views out the rounded window are just amazing of the street and of the sea. So now, Pacaso, talk about your properties, Joey.
Right. Yeah, before we get into that, just in case people are curious about what's behind the company. Our founders are a team that started Zillow in the US. This is the latest and greatest from them. We launched about 5 years ago on the back end of COVID when many people wanted access to a second home or a third home, but didn't do it for one of 2 reasons: it's cost or the hassle of management. So since then, we've purchased over $1 billion worth of real estate globally. We're currently operating in 40 cities across 4 different countries, backed by some of the biggest venture capital firms in the world. And most exciting to me is that last year we expanded into Paris. And we started last year with 2 properties on Rue du Bac that sold out in record time, like in a matter of days before we even closed on the property. And fast forward a year, owners are happy, they're referring their friends, and we just closed on property number 3, which we'll talk about in the next slides. And we're teeing up property number 4 that we'll close on in June. But we're very excited about Paris. It was sort of the elephant in the room for us for a while. We had a lot of American-based existing owners or potential owners that, would love to own a slice of a pied-à-terre there, but they just didn't know how to, or they didn't want to own an entire home. So I'll show you on the next slide.
That means I have to wake up and do it, don't I?
Before we get into the actual properties, I just wanted to dive in a little bit more into the global swaps because it is such an amazing feature that took us 3 years to build internally. There's a lot of logistical work, product, development, etc., to make it look so simple with a matter of a few clicks on your phone. But basically, what it is as we talked about before, once you're an owner, you're on the owner app. You can scroll all of the properties. You can see which weeks are available for swap. That owner will get a prompt for the week that you want to trade, and they can say yes or no. They say no, fine. If they say yes, the team will get an alert on the ground. The cleaners will be instructed. The property manager will know, and will really deliver that same Pacaso experience as if it was your own home. And so it's a really fun way for folks to try new cities, try new homes, just really, most importantly, get so much more out of their 1/8 share in a single home in Paris, now having access to, our portfolio.
It's really amazing, Joey, because we had a lot of owners ask us if we could do that among the properties we manage, but it was such a complicated process for us as the little guys to do that it really just didn't work. So the ability to, buy into a share in Paris and have access to so many fabulous other cities across the world is just incredible.
Yeah, as I said, we've got some swaps happening right now in a couple of our homes in Paris and a couple of our homes in London. All across the world, people are now benefiting from this that, was really 3 or 4 years in the making. And we're really just kind of getting started into making it even a better and better experience. And on the next slide, you'll just see a couple screenshots of what that actually looks like. When you become a Pacaso owner, everything's done on your phone app. Of course, we do offer white glove service if you need help adjusting dates or kind of understanding how the scheduling works. But we have some tech savvy owners and some very not tech savvy owners, and everyone's able to use it very simply. So you'll see kind of upcoming stays. You'll see homes if you want to go to Napa for a weekend, if you want to, again, go to Miami, or if you want to go to Charleston or London or Cabo or, Vail, any of the many markets that we operate in, everything can be done right on the iPhone app, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, there isn't anyone who can really offer this other than, I guess, with timeshare.
Yeah, it's very different, right? For all the
Right,
reasons.
because you don't own anything, you just own the time. So
Yeah.
it's not like an investment.
Yeah, exactly. And so with this, it's, you're really leveraging that 1/8 ownership or 1/4 ownership in one existing home, but then you can absolutely know for certain that you're going to get the Pacaso experience when you show up to do a ski weekend in Aspen, or a
Right.
golf weekend in Kiwa or something like that. And they're all Pacaso quality homes, of course, because they're in our portfolio. So they're all
Right.
multi-million dollar homes in the best parts of those neighborhoods, in the best parts of those cities, where you want to spend your time when you're there on holiday with your friends or family.
Okay. So
And
tell
so
us
now,
about Rue des
yeah,
Beaux-Arts, because I think you only have 2 shares left.
yep. So this is our last home we just closed on just 2 weeks ago. It's located on Rue des Beaux-Arts in the heart of the Sixth. We bought this off market from really the best developer, I would say, in the left bank, which is the Kasha Group. It's the first 3-bedroom home that we've been able to offer to our owners. The first 2 were 2 beds. The quality of construction is unlike anything I've seen before, and I've toured a lot of properties in Paris. They've really nailed the kind of juxtaposition of sort of a Parisian styled home with some really important back end, modern features, like Lacanche stoves, but we also have central air conditioning. We have underfloor heating. So you have all those really important bones and really brains behind the property, but you feel like you're very typical Parisian flat. I was just there yesterday. We have our first owner staying. Yeah, we've got 2 shares left. It's really a fabulous property, and I'll show you some photos on the next slides. But basically, the way our process works is it's very simple. If you're interested in this, you can reserve one of the final shares with a refundable deposit, which people make by a credit card, and then we can kind of go through that process of due diligence. If you want to view the home, go through all the paperwork. But this is definitely a special one. Will be hard for us to replicate. And yeah, just 2 shares left. We actually just closed a share last week, thanks to Adrian. Adrian and Patty brought us a very happy owner. And so, we expect to do the same, and probably close this one out by the end of the month,
I was just on Rue de Seine last night for dinner, and it was really hopping too.
2 ships in the night. I was just there as
So
well.
wait, here's some photos, right? You want to show these?
Yeah, so here's a good photo of the living room, which is actually currently being, I would say, revamped on the furniture side. We've got a really amazing plan there, which will all be done in the next couple of weeks. Um, some of the furniture has already been swapped out.
Yeah, well,
Um,
these are just placeholders, these chairs, clearly.
yeah, they are. But yeah, we have all new furniture. Everything's sourced locally. Really try to lean into, being in that heart of the six where you have some amazing, furniture suppliers, art galleries, all things that we really look to promote and, celebrate as part of our very true ownership experience. But that's a great for you where you can see the kitchen with the Lacan stove. All the bedrooms are en suite. The owner's lockers just went in. That's a feature that we do in all of our homes.
Oh, that's the other one. I go
Basically,
back.
yeah, we use the same, woodwork and joinery and carpenters that the developer uses to build all the closets. And then we'll install 8 individual owner's lockers that look like they've always been there. Everyone has their own individual keypad. So if you want to leave personal items while you're not at the home, you're able to do so. Of course, there's still a ton of, closet and wardrobe space during your stay, but it's just a nice personal touch, an added feature, so people can, as we said, leave things behind.
I doubt these shares are gonna be on the market for long, is my guess.
Yeah, it's as we know, it's very hard to find high quality, well located turnkey supply, especially at this caliber. This one came via deep developer relationship that we've been working on for a while. They don't do many products, and yeah, this is certainly one of my favorites. And as I said, we've got 6 owners in there now, all very happy. And the beauty is that now that we own the home and we still own these 2 shares, owners can start enjoying the home, you know, by the end of the month, really. You can plan your first stays and kind of get on with it, which is quite exciting.
And you have another one, a new one, don't you? This
Got a
one.
new one that we will close at the end of June. Also in the 6 on the other side of Boulevard Saint-Germain. It's the lowest price point we've done to date, actually. We're buying this from the same developer that developed one of our other projects on Rue de Bac. So we know the quality of work that he does. He loves working with us. We just put it on the website like 2 days ago, and we only have 4 shares remaining of the 8. I think this is like your perfect sort of pied-à-terre. The location's amazing. The finishes are amazing. All the bedrooms are en suite. There's actually a separate office in there as well. The layout's really favorable. And even with 2 months to go, we're nearly at the end of this one. So it's really,
There
where I
it is.
think Beaux Art is really the great, family home, family pied-à-terre. This is great for maybe a smaller group. We're also redoing some of the living room. We're adding another sofa, but this home really still meets our caliber of things like underfloor heating, central air conditioning, things that are really important, I think, not only for a big part of our American ownership group, but as we think about the resale market in the future.
Is this the furniture that's there now?
Yeah, for the most part, we're going through about a week of redesign at the
Mhm.
moment. And the benefit of that is when we close
Fantastic.
at the end of June, it'll be fully done. But I've got video tours for both of these properties if anyone's interested. Um, and yeah, same process. Because we're early on in the acquisition process, this one is, 5K holding deposit, and then we'll step that up as we get closer to closing in June.
So Joey, how do they contact you? Through
So
us? Well, we have these properties on our site, we have these properties listed except for the Rue Madame. Rue Madame is not on our
yeah,
website yet.
definitely anyone interested, please reach out to Adrian's group. And
Right, info@adrianleeds.com. Just let us know and then we'll refer you over to Joey without a problem.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to add before we go to the Q&A?
I think we covered it. I think, the only other thing I can add is just how, happy our ownership group is. I love getting to meet all of our owners during their first days, lunch or dinner. And I definitely have never had someone regret buying, same with you, Adrian, never had anyone
No,
regret
never had a regret. No.
Fractional there. They're getting to live a pretty amazing lifestyle, not only at like an eighth of the cost or a quarter of the cost, but without any of the stress. And I think especially when you go 0 to 1 buying abroad, that is so important, not only on the purchase process, but also when you leave, when you're home, you don't have to worry about who's looking after the property. Is it well
Oh,
kept?
right.
You know,
But
who's
it
paying
really
the
is I
utilities?
mean, our owners feel like it's their home.
It is.
It's not just an apartment they've rented, for example, or a hotel room. They really feel at home there, especially if they can leave some of their belongings there. Then they walk in and they've got their favorite shampoo, it's what they want, right? It,
Yeah, so
it's great.
we add this kind of layer of hospitality on top of it where there's always the home manager greeting our owners when they arrive. We've got fresh flowers. We actually do an initial grocery run. So when you take the red eye over, the last thing you want to think about is like how you're going to get breakfast or where you're going to have breakfast. We always store all the Nespresso capsules. It's all things that we try to really double down on removing the friction for our owners. And as we said, it is their home. So
Mhm. Absolutely. So for everyone out there, we've got 15 minutes. We can certainly take your questions. Patty Sadowskis, who's pictured here, she's been looking at the questions you've been putting into the chat. We have a few questions in chat, Patty.
We have a few questions. This one's for Joey. How many weeks per year equals a 1/8 share?
sure. So that 1/8 share is about 6.5 weeks, it's
Mhm.
45 days. And that's base case. So remember, there's things like short notice days, where I've seen owners be able to get another week or two, if they have a little bit of flexibility, within the next month, that they want to travel to Paris.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Here's an inheritance question, and probably either Adrian or Joey can answer this. How do heirs handle fractionals if French inheritance law has jurisdiction?
French inheritance law does not have jurisdiction. It's that
Exactly.
simple.
Exactly.
It's a US ownership.
Yep.
So it
And
has
I'll
nothing to do with France whatsoever.
And I'll add one, that's exactly right. And I'll add one other point is that in terms of the purchase process, owners can buy it in their name, they can buy it in an LLC, they can buy it in a trust. We're very flexible in that, and we have owners that opt for each one of those different routes.
I want to correct one thing, however, okay? If that owner becomes tax resident in France, then their heirs will be taxed on their worldwide assets. So it could be subject to inheritance tax,
Mhm.
but they would have had to become fully resident and tax resident in France and still keep their share, which is highly unlikely.
Mm. Adrian, we've had that happen though, because we have clients who own property and live in France in one city and keep a fractional share in another city.
In another city, yes, that's actually true.
Right. Yep,
So it becomes part of their US assets,
exactly.
Yeah, we
right?
haven't had any of those scenarios yet. But I think on the surface level, unless it's kind of those unique situations, just to round out that question,
Mhm.
the law does
Well,
not.
yes, it's true. We have some owners, for example, they have a fractional share in Paris,
Mhm.
but then they actually own a home, an apartment in Nice and live full-time in Nice, but then come to Paris every now and then into their fractional.
Mhm.
It's a great way of having both cities.
Yeah. Yeah, I've even thought about that. Oh, this is a good question. Are pets allowed?
Yes, in the operating agreement, it states all the rules, then everyone signs it. Our rule is you can have up to two pets, mostly like dogs, up to 80 pounds in total.
Wow.
I've actually never seen anyone bring their pet, but it is allowed.
And it's not in any of ours. We have not allowed pets in any of our shares. So it just depends on the bylaws. So it's important to read the bylaws and understand what you're buying into. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really applicable for, we try to keep a lot of the documents consistent, especially since we have owners that own multiple shares across the world with us. Where we see that really helpful is when people may own a share in one of our homes in Napa Valley, but they live in San Francisco, so they can get in the car, put the dog in the car. But as I said, we now on our fourth home, operating for over a year and operating now 3 years in London, and I've never seen a pet make the transatlantic voyage, but maybe that will change.
Okay. Patty?
Another question, as a Canadian, how do we proceed with fractional purchase in USD? Do we need to set up a US LLC?
Oh, no, not at all. It's just a
No.
transfer. It's just a currency transfer. It's very simple. We recommend using a currency broker. We have several we work with. One that we recommend highly is Money Corp. And that's all it is. It's going from Canadian dollars to US dollars through a broker. It's quite a
Yeah,
simple process. We've got these links on our website under currency transfer. And it's good to let them know that you're our client.
And I'll add a link to the chat.
Okay.
And there it is. Okay, what else? We had a question early on about tax reporting for the US and France, which I think was covered during the webinar. But either Adrian, maybe you or Joey could expand on that a little bit.
Well, we definitely have to we have to report on both sides for as just like companies do. Companies have to report, even though there's no income, there's no tax to be paid, they still have to file a return. And you have to file a return on both sides, France and US.
Yep, we're the same, and we actually handle that for our owners. So we do all the tax prep and tax
Yeah, we
filing.
do it all too. That's right. We have a CPA that does the work for all of our properties, and we handle it. And it just is part of the costs of operating.
And covered by the dues.
Yeah, it's covered by the dues, exactly.
And let's see, there was another question about how do we know the homes have been well taken care of and have proper upkeep, such as technicians looking over the HVAC, electricity, appliances? That was covered a little bit too. We could maybe go into a little more depth on that.
That for me, that has to do with, having professional management. When you have professional management, the property's going to be well taken care of.
Mhm.
And if it's not well taken care of, the owners are going to be real vocal. So you're going to know right away. I mean, and if you visit the property, you're going to know, you're going to see. Now, Joey, you and I both know that sometimes there's things in the buildings that we have no control over. Right? Because there's a homeowner association for the building that has to take care of the building itself. And so there are things that neither the management company nor the owners can do anything about whatsoever. We, as managers, we work with the syndics and the copropriété, the homeowners associations, to get that work done as quickly as possible. But again, it's not under our control.
Yep, we're the same. Even, during our acquisition process, we run obviously due diligence on the last few years of building minutes, and we can get a sense if there's any deferred maintenance or effects coming up. But as Adrian says, we can really control the things that we can control, and we do it very well. When you're in a building with multiple units, sometimes there are things that can't
Like the
control.
elevator not working, for example. That happens, right? The elevator's not working and there's nothing you can do about it, but the building management will take care of it, and you can only hope for the best. And if it happens on a Saturday or Sunday, then you're probably going to be waiting till Monday, at least, and walking up the stairs. And it's called life in France.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, another question for you, Adrian. You have properties on your website other than yours and Pacaso's. Who are these companies? I assume you have vetted them.
That is extremely true. We have. But they are other owners or developers whose properties we think are worth purchasing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. We wouldn't back them up.
Obviously.
So, and I think we actually have shares right now for sale, Patty, in Maison Bees,
Maison,
right?
right?
And Mirabel,
Chez
Chez
Mirabel.
Mirabel. These
Mhm.
are properties in the countryside. If you want to be in the countryside, they're country homes and they're quite beautiful. And are there any others available? I don't think so. I think it's just
I
those.
think that's it. I
Right.
think that's it right now.
I mean, we sell the shares so quickly that the moment it comes available, it's usually gone within a week of notifying people. But the ones in the countryside take a little longer to sell. There's no question about it. Yeah.
A question about what's the difference between operational costs and annual dues?
Well, okay, the annual dues are made up of the operational costs.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
It's just we take the total of the cost, divide it by the number of owners, and that's what the annual dues are, in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same with us.
Okay.
I think.
Does anybody want to unmute and say something, make a comment, or have a question? We have a few minutes.
Yep.
Luz, unmute. So this is Luz Diaz. Luz Diaz, are you there? You can say hello.
She's still
We
muted.
can't hear you. You're still muted. You're still muted. We heard you before, and now we can't hear you at all. Luz is a concierge that has been working and a search consultant that's been working with us for many years. And she takes care of several of our properties. And so when she came on, we could hear her fine, but now we can't. But anyway.
Yeah, and I can't unmute her either.
Yes,
Right,
there
you
you
I'm
got
here.
it.
Can you hear me?
Is there anything any comment you want to make or say here?
Well, I get to meet the owners of your fractionals, and I could say that they're all very happy. Okay, very happy people. And that, yeah, I think it's a great investment, especially when you don't have all year or 6 months in a row to be in Paris. So it's a way to enjoy the city and share the costs.
Right. And as a concierge, how do you find
Yes.
that job?
Well, honestly,
Yes, of course.
no, I love it. You know that I love it. But there are clients and there are clients. There are people that do not understand that France and the US are very different. And when you mentioned the elevator, I was laughing because some people expect us to fix the elevator problem when it is without our, it's not in our,
Control.
you know? So they
Right.
get very frustrated. And sometimes they take it out on me.
Well, of course, okay, you're probably thinking of at least one of our properties that's on the 5th floor. So when the elevator's not working, the 5th floor is quite a walk up.
Yes. That, especially that property has issues with the elevator quite often. So yeah, there are issues like that. But other than that, they're lovely and they're so happy to be here. And I mean, how can you not be happy when you come to Paris? So yeah, I love doing that job.
Okay. Anybody else
And
want to
someone, I
unmute?
think
I'm
someone
sorry.
was asking, how do you know if the property is well kept? Like you said, it's management. It's loving what you do, and you make sure that everything is perfect when people arrive and they have their flowers and they have their wine and they have whatever they ask. Some people ask me to put balloons because it's somebody's birthday, and they walk in and it's a surprise, and it's just, you know, a surprise in Paris.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to unmute and make a comment or ask a question? We have 1 minute.
Adrian, I got a quick question that came
Okay.
while Luz was speaking. Do you have any fractional niece properties in the pipeline?
Oh, perfect question.
Someone's a mind
Because
reader.
Because Joey and I are talking about doing another one in Nice, doing something together that's really fabulous if we can manage it. So yes, the answer to that is yes. When that will be realized is another question, but Nice is just a fantastic city, and the big trick is finding a gorgeous property with, you know, if not on the sea, at least with a sea view and a beautiful terrace or balcony. And because the Le Palais du Soleil is a gorgeous property, and it sold out in literally 5 days, was gone. And as you saw, the share that we had available sold very quickly. So we definitely need to do one. So if you're interested in Nice, shake your head yes. I see a few, okay? I want to thank all of you for being here. I hope this was beneficial to you. I hope you learned some things. And please do not hesitate to contact us, info@adrianleeds.com. Patty gets that email. She'll pass it on to us. And do not, you know, if you think you're interested in a share, don't wait around too long because they don't stay on the market long. They really don't. And especially right now with everything going on in the US, we are seeing a mass, you know, exodus out of the US with people coming over. And so it's been busy. So don't dilly-dally. Okay, thank you all. Have a wonderful
everybody.
rest of the
Thank
day.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Joey, very much for your
Bye.
presentation. Really appreciate it. Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Thank you.
Oops.